Hello and welcome to another episode of the Under the Pines podcast. I am your host, Max Emmanuel. This chat is another great example of why I started this podcast. We touched upon a myriad of topics, and therefore there are plenty of nuggets for you to take away from. So my guest today is Nils Pa, co-founder of Human Pro and Microdose Pro, and all around a great human. We talked about intuition, stoicism, changing people's lives with products, detoxing, biohacking, fascia, emotional release, intermittent fasting, plants being technology and bringing us closer to God and therefore ourself. Furthermore, we talked about entrepreneurship, partnership, building a company, remote work, receiving funding, dealing with investors, mushrooms, adaptogenics like lion's mane, of course, about microdosing, the work life balance, the human existence on this plane, our purpose in life, and why taking 100 pills a day is too much. Also, we touch upon the transhuman movement, why improving on a running system is crucial. So please like and subscribe if you haven't. And a little disclaimer, this podcast and all the discussions and topics we talk about are solely intended for educational purposes. So let's jump right in.
We can just see to cut it out or not.
Okay, now we're recording. Let's go.
Okay, cool. Have you ever heard of fascia release or not?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, I hadn't. And
Ooh.
just for context, I've been injured for like 2 years. I did a lot of heavy calisthenics, right? With the handstand push-ups and the front lever, all these things. And
Sure.
my philosophy was just like, okay, just grind through it, right? Just like pure force, pure, willpower. And at one point, that totally broke me. I was just at pain everywhere. Couldn't do anything anymore. Like, just went way too far with that. And I've spent the last 2 years really trying to figure out what my just to get a diagnosis. Okay, what do I have? What do I need to fix or work on or heal or whatever? Been to classical doctors, sport doctors, MRI scans, X-rays, been to 10 plus alternative healers, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it all didn't really, help. And then I got here to South Africa. I'm now here in Cape Town. And I have this friend here. He texted me like, "Hey, dude, I have a fascia release lady. You should check her out." I was like, "Okay." I've heard the word a few times before, but I don't know really what it is. So I just went there. And it was a 6-hour session, the first one, with hammer and stuff.
Painful.
It was crazy, man. It was crazy. So I'm now 40 hours in. I had my another 6 hour yesterday, and she did my lower arms and stuff and my hands, and it was just pure hell. And what she said was like, okay, it's not uncommon for some emotions to come up, like after the days after. So I had one day, man, that was I just was angry for two full days, after the session. There's so much anger, and she was like, "Yeah, dude, that was like all stored in your neck." And I was like, "Well, really?" So on an intellectual level, I knew, okay, there is, I read books about, okay, you can store emotion in the body, all the stuff. Yeah, I know. Okay, cool. But I never really experienced it myself, right? And that's now I had it myself, and it was like, whoa, this is some really interesting stuff to work with. More the somatic part of the body, and how you can store apparently traumas in your body for a very long time.
Yeah,
So yesterday I
100%.
did the arms. Sorry, what?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did the arms yesterday, and I just woke up. I'm like so emotional, like a lot of anxiety. I always have a little bit for a podcast. Okay, let's do it. It's good work.
Yes.
But now I'm just like, there's so much stuff, coming out. I'm like, holy fuck, man! Like, there's so much to work with. So
Yeah, man. I think especially with the body and fascia, like you will, if you're active and also if you're inactive, but it will show differently. But especially when you're active, you will reach that point of a lot of pain and discomfort if you don't know that it has to be taken care of, right? Like we always, when we're younger, fuck stretching, like who the hell needs that, especially when you're doing like impact sports and or anything like just calisthenics or the gym, right? Like it's so important, right? Like the fascia goes from the top of your head all the way to the toe, it's crazy. It's super interlinked with your water levels, your healthy balanced water levels in your body. It's actually super of an intelligent system. And I mean, I
Yeah.
also learned it the hard way. I was a couple years ago, I was in severe nerve pain, and like it all also came from trauma, physical and emotional trauma. And then through the emotional trauma, it showed, my an old injury that I didn't even know that I had came up. And so all the nerve pain started. So I was like, on a deep journey through that, uh, in a forced way, right? So yeah.
Dude, I had the same, like I had like she was like, yeah, you have scar tissue in your arm here and
Mm,
here. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know that,
yeah.
And probably all the the hard way, all the calisthenics, just without any, like you said, any stretching, just pure willpower, uh,
Brute force.
brute force, man. And it was like like that was so telling of like where I was a few years ago. In my late 20s, was pure that mindset. Everything force. Like that's
Yeah.
everything has to do with power. No balance in that regard. And then the best example of that is, I think, like I was training for this handstand push up. I just wanted to get it.
Hmm.
This what Goku does in Dragon Ball Z, right? I want to do
Sure.
like handstand push ups, but I couldn't even do like a normal handstand. So balance wise, I couldn't get into a handstand, but I got it through just pure force. Pressing yourself from the ground. So it's the other way around. Usually you go with balance first and then you go to force, right? I was like, just pure. I can get my way there with force. And that I really learned that lesson, 2 years ago, when I just, for a time, I couldn't even get out of bed anymore. Like I was in so much pain, like it was absolutely horrific. And then to find, after 2 years, of searching, okay, what could it be? All kinds of training mechanisms, all kinds of like healing, acupuncture, the whole, everything. And then fascia, and then I'm feeling free, but there's so much stuff coming out, right? It's like, whoa, it's like it's
Yeah.
really a door that opens to me.
Yeah. This is just the beginning, man. Like I'm
No, thanks.
doing yeah, I'm doing regular therapy like since 6 7 years,
Mm,
like on a regular basis. Like in the beginning, I was going 5 days a week when it was acute, and because they want to, like the surgeons, of course, they wanted to get their knives out, and like start operating. And I'm like, okay,
yeah.
fuck that, I'm not going to do that. And yeah, I got out of it like with a traditional alternative way. But it was a hard and painful path. But now I'm good, and
You mean
now it's
therapy
just.
for fascia release, just specifically that?
Well, I did everything that you can think of, literally, like osteopathy, physio,
Yeah, same.
like everything. Yeah, fascia release. Like a really good osteopath that is very diverse and has a lot of knowledge. They combine all of that, right? Like it's
Mm.
I at least from my experience, I go for the really skilled osteopath rather than like the brute physio that just wants to pop some joints.
Yeah, I went exactly like
Yeah.
I have this like a very skilled osteopath in the Netherlands. Like for me, especially the dry needling. I'm not sure if you tried that. That was just also amazing. But he never mentioned just the word fascia, so it was always deep tissue and stuff,
Mm,
And then I started
mm,
researching the fascia, read some articles on it. I was like, okay, emotions can be stored there. Okay, I'm open to the idea. I'm seeing the body and the mind as as one system interplaying. It's like it's so yeah.
of course.
And but my mind body connection always was very low. Even on psychedelics, we'll probably get into that. But like even on that, it's I never really went into where are emotions stored in my body. I also do psychotherapy, all this kind of stuff. Just to to
Sure.
explore where there is stuff for me to work on. And even then, in deep like hypnosis or whatever, it's like, okay, where is your emotion in your body? And I could never tell. I was like, yeah, I don't know. So my awareness of my body, it's not that great, to say the least. And then I was reading this and I was like, okay, this sounds pretty interesting. And then now, for the first time ever, just because this woman was just hammering my neck for 4 hours straight, then 2 days, or yeah, one day later, 2 days later, just so much anger coming out. I was like, whoa, where is this coming from? Like I didn't even know it was there. So that was yeah, a very releasing exercise indeed. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
definitely gonna work on this more, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's normal, that that we don't have this mind body connection, because we are pushed in a completely other direction, like since our youth,
Mm.
right? Like you're not, as a man or as a boy in that sense, you're not supposed to show your emotions, right? Like you're not supposed to show your anger, especially already in kindergarten, like, and then later in school it's even worse, because you're just supposed to sit there and shut the fuck up, right?
Yeah.
So everything gets just shut down, it's swallowed, and then it builds up, right? And because you learn it, for those many hours a day, to not express what you're actually feeling, because you just have to accept what you get being told, and you just have to process that, and it doesn't matter what you feel and how you feel about it and how you think about it. Of course we don't, we're completely detached, and then also with women, it's they start taking the contraceptive pill very early on, right? Like that detaches them completely, right? They don't feel, like a lot of women don't really feel their body, like in the lower parts, because of that, and they don't know why that is, right? And it's these chemicals or hormones. And so yeah, it's crazy, but that's a good thing about these podcasts, because I hope, right, like that's one intention that I have, just talking about these topics, to bring a bit more awareness about that. And then
Yeah.
people can think, okay, shit, yeah, I feel something there, and maybe they explore, and then they're going to check it out, and maybe it is the fascia, right? Like it's definitely, I mean, I
I want to.
literally learned just, yeah, I just learned recently about the fascia, that it actually stores water. I didn't know that, right? Like I always thought, because I have these pictures in my head, it's like this strong, fiber that is everywhere. Basically, it's like your whole body's wrapped with it, right? That's what I always thought. But it's so intelligent, and just like you said, it can store information, and that's the interesting part that I also just learned, a couple, like 2 years ago, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, so like we said, like I totally want to raise awareness on this because now I feel this myself, and it's like
yeah,
I think you as well. Like we don't know each other that well, but I think I get a
yeah,
sense that you're also from the direct experience. If you experience
yeah.
something yourself, then you think, okay, then this is true. And especially with the fascia, I also did the research, and I read some psychology books on this in the past. Okay, you can store emotions and stuff inside the body, and it can be in a specific location, and that can be released. And it was never that I thought that on a way it was like, yeah, sure, it's a nice idea, but like I don't really think that, or not convinced by the concept. But now that I've actually went through it myself in such a pretty intense way, like I'm like, okay, yeah, no, direct experience, this is true. My
Mm,
body can definitely store emotions, inside the body. So I was like, whoa, this opens up so many new doors. And like I totally resonate with what you said about, like being younger, repressing your emotions. I had that, so for so long. My brother died when I was young, and I never really let that out. I always had that, just suppressed. I thought it was no, you shouldn't show your emotions, like to
yeah.
the world. That then you're a strong man. And I even went to like things like stoicism. I also think you're into that, but into the wrong way. I was always like, stoicism is like, not showing your emotions, but it's totally not, it's totally like shadowy way to approach it. But I was I was building all these systems around me, in my psyche, also to not access those emotions. And even on psychedelics, I really could go there. I could do some healing in a sense, but it always it stayed a bit like into the, let's say, the spiritual mental realm. It never went really into the physical realm, right? So then after a high dose or something, LSD or ayahuasca, then I had really good stuff to work with. I had really, good insights, or really, I felt that I was healing on a certain level. But I then afterwards I would go to the gym again, do the same old stuff,
Mm,
and that would just reinforce that, the movements, that behavior that would like, contribute to the wrong fascia structure, let's say, or not
yes.
not an ideal or optimal fascia structure. And now
Yeah,
I'm just,
integration is big.
dude, it's so big, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's big.
it's a big thing right now, actually, like the integration, right? So it's really a big thing, like even in psychedelic circles, like other entrepreneurs that I'm talking about, they all like are diverging more toward integration. It's like you can have so much insight on just in a short burst of time, so much energy, so much like knowledge, or whatever you want to call it. But then if you don't do anything with it afterwards, if you don't like just work on it on
Yeah,
a daily basis, like in the boring nitty gritty work of it, just the daily stretching, like you said, or the daily releasing, that kind of stuff, then it just builds up again, and it's just like, okay,
Yeah, of
you,
course.
you need another hit in a few months, and then what are you doing? It's like
Yeah.
releasing, building up, releasing, building up. And in a way, that's what yeah, it is what I was doing. Like, I think during mid-20s, I would really go to a psychedelic ceremony and then saw that moment as like a release, and then I was okay, go back into the normal way of life, and just don't really change my default habits or structures.
Yeah, because it's easy, it's convenient, right? Like you don't have to work. You just go somewhere and you take something in, right? Like you have like a great experience, and just like you said, you think you actually works through stuff because now you understand something a little bit better, and then you just go back to your old ways, and you think that's done, right? But like that's not even half of the job, right?
Yeah,
and and then you yeah, and then people say, okay, I got rid of this addiction, and now I'm like doing ayahuasca like once a month. I'm like, yeah, you replace it with a new one, right? So
exactly. Yeah, no, we
yeah,
get that a lot, with Microdose Pro, like the company I started. Just a brief context, like I started this microdosing company 4 years ago. That's also
yeah,
why I was in Cape Town. My team was here, and we had like this whole week retreat hackathon together. And we see that a lot. That a lot of people come to us, with like, oh, I did already ayahuasca, 20 times, and that this is what can I expect of this? And what we often hear then is that with microdosing, it's because it's not like this extreme intense experience. It's just on a very gradual base for like, let's say, a month or so, and it's
yeah,
very subtle that people that even experienced like psychedelic users, they're often very like impressed by how much just the small integration, the daily work that it can do for them, and even like we get a lot of people that after a high dose, let's say ayahuasca ceremony, they then start microdosing, just for a month to integrate those insights better, and that allows them to help with that integration aspect. And that is yeah, I also noticed in myself, I'm more and more, just like directed towards just the boring daily stuff, okay, I just want one routine that includes everything. I just want to, repeat that every single day. And I don't need like all the psychedelics anymore, like so much, or like all the super intense things, especially
yeah.
excluding the fascia release, but just like just working gradually, on just like getting healthy again, getting better again. So yeah,
Yeah, it's a good approach. I think the mundane, the boring work is where all the success and all the happiness lies, right? Like especially for us men, I think without routine, nothing really works out like the way we plan it. At least that was with the case with me. Once I understood what routine is, and how to structure my day, and how to structure my morning, how to structure the night before, then everything started falling into place. It's not so much that I overdo it. I just keep it very simple. But like you have to take care of the basics, like take care of your sleep, right? What toxins are you taking in? What maybe supplementation if you need it, because you have to check, if you, I mean, we both probably had like in our 20s, we did a lot too much, well, of certain things, like anything that we can think of probably. And now you probably have to pay for it in some sense, right? So check out what you might be missing, what you have to balance out, and then you can actually cut down and keep it simple. But like there has to be some work beforehand to bring it back to a normal level so the body can actually work itself. And what you said about stoicism, right? Like I talked to Daniele Bolelli on a pod. Yeah, you can check it out. Like it's a good conversation. He's a historian and professor of history, and he researched a lot, like people like Musashi and Aurelius. And what he said, what was interesting, he said that they both were very stern in their approach to life, right? Like it was only this, like, right, like the meditations he wrote, it was only this, like you have to stick to it, right? Like apparently there was no enjoyment to life, right?
Mm.
Besides that. And that's I know you also in those depth for a bit, and I think if you lose like the fun in life, like what's the point, right? So it should
Dude,
be a guidance, right? Yeah.
yeah, look, I'm actually reading Musashi right now. So I
Oh,
was
nice.
when you said it, I started this yesterday. It's
Yeah.
it's a really amazing book. I got recommended by another friend who's really into Musashi. And like, yeah,
Yeah.
you would like this because it's so like rules and tuck tuck tuck. And
Yeah.
I'm reading the intro, and they're saying like, yeah, he was basically just a functional psychopath, you know, because he just lived in the forest, lived in the cave, and he was like extremely like everything had to be like this. I was like, true, fair points.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, like you said, there has to be some space for just fun, And
Exactly.
I think that you said like we did too much of things in our 20s, and for me, like what I did way too much in my 20s was work. In the
Mm.
It brought me a lot, it brought me of course where I am today as well, so I learned a lot from it. But like after my university, I didn't know what to do, so the only thing that I knew I could do was just spend all my time, just grinding, on my I had a
Mm.
marketing agency back then. It was just like 24/7, 7 days a week, just grind, 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 grind. And that was it. And again, like I think that was a very valuable time. I learned a lot from that. Just when you're young, you have time, you just spend it. That's your resource that older people don't have.
Sure.
And like other your clients or other entrepreneurs, they see that. So they see, okay, this guy, he wants to go full power, and it will get you quite far. But right now, I'm just like, okay, dude, take it down. My self body system, is like, okay, we've had enough of like the 7 days a week, 24/7, grind mentality. Let's take it down a notch. And it's the same with the working out, like everything is like more like coming from that, from high to like, okay, just let's balance things out a bit more. And yeah, that's it's an amazing journey so far. Not easy though.
Yeah.
It can be hard.
Yeah. It's all about balance, right? It's what it's all about. I think if we don't find balance, it shows up in situations like you have with your fascia, right? Or that I had, a couple years ago. And then you like completely knocked out. In my case, I was knocked out for a while, instead of, making it work like in a balanced way. But yeah, that was my learning, right? Like I had to learn it the hard way to understand, okay, I need to step back a bit, like cut out all the crap that distracts me. And that's in the end,
Yeah,
it's all about focus with me. I don't know how it is with you, but it seems like your focus was very strong early on. Like with me, I was always distracted, like
mhm.
stuff that I didn't, like I shouldn't be doing, I was doing, right.
Same, like, but I had that with focus. So like I think personality wise, I'm very geared to like hyper focus. Like
Mm,
I thrive. I get energy of just like studying, learning. Doing a thing for like years in a row. Basically, it can be even the same thing. But I had like what I'm working right now is like, okay, channeling that focus on the right things. So like I get distracted with the wrong things to focus on. Not wrong, or but like things that perhaps are not serving me in that moment. So, and it can be anything, but like even now I have here like 10 books. I'm just reading 10 books at the same time, like just like going through it. I love it.
yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, it's very fun, it's nice to do, but right now for my business I should actually study some other topics, right? Like where I am in business right now, things I have to learn, it's all way more business related. So like,
Mm,
and then it's like, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna read philosophy for a few days.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's fun, but it's for me, it's more like, okay, that's what Musashi I think also said. It's direct your focus in where it serves you, and
Yeah.
that is super hard for me, and it's yeah, I'm again like this. That's a journey that I'm on right now,
Sure.
but but what I resonate with what you said is like I think you alluded to just simplifying, right? Just simplification of life, and I think that is currently one of the most prominent things that I am doing, or like I'm trying to upgrade my system in. It's like hyper simplification. Like I had like if I just look at like the past years, also my 20s, of course, like how I operated, it was so much things, and there's so much stuff on so many levels, and it's like it gave me so much like just also anxiety, right? Just
Yeah.
the simplification, that's already just it's so nice. And like you said, with the routine, I'm actually working right now before this talk on like, okay, what is my routine for the coming months or so, just to go through it. the main thing is just simplification. It's just
Yeah.
don't do too much complex stuff. It's like, okay, work out, get that done, do something you can do every day. Or every 2 days you switch it up. It's simplification. Waking up same time. Just spend the first few hours just reading or studying or working on the most important thing. Just and like you said, diet. Just get a diet that works and go for it. I've been experimenting a
Yeah.
lot with diet over the last few years, and I'm actually close, I think, to my optimal diet. But it's
Yeah.
just,
Same here.
just don't make it too much. Yeah, I think you're a hardcore carnivore or not. I saw some steak videos.
Yeah. Yeah. I switched. I used to eat everything, and just these past like 2 years, I think I'm pulled more towards meat.
Mm.
No chicken, no pig, and a pork, and yeah, everything else basically, right? Like lamb and red meat is kind of what works for me. But like high quality stuff, and I don't know why, but like my body just likes it, And I also
Yeah,
cut out a lot of like the vegetables that don't serve me. I think everybody has a different, you know, uh, like preset of conditions, right? Like what works with the body and what doesn't. We cannot say, yeah, salad is bad, or chickpeas are bad for you. But like for me, chickpeas don't work. For me, broccoli doesn't work. For me, like all these types of vegetables that I found for myself don't work. So I stick to the stuff that works. I stick to it doesn't even have to be that I like it too much, but like if it works, I will eat it.
mm.
And that's it. Kind of cut the carbs. Don't eat carbs with every meal, and keep it simple. A lot of fats.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Very, very similar. Like I think it's very
Yeah.
similar. Like I do eat more vegetables nowadays. So I also had like this phase. I cut out all those. I noticed that I'm going well actually on vegetables. But
Yeah.
how do you measure it? Is it like internal feeling, or is it like do you measure that with like a blood
Mm,
test or what? Because that for me
yeah. I
is
know.
right now.
Yeah, I know we can test that stuff, but I think like my intuition is great, and my body tells me what works, what doesn't, and I also feel it, just with the output. Like, when you have children, just so your energy levels, you can see it right away. Like, can you take the stress or not? With work, like, it's fairly simple to find out what works and what doesn't. And so I just kept testing, and I think bloating, like if you have a lot of gas,
Yeah,
we think it's kind of okay, but I don't, or society thinks, but I don't think it is. I don't think we should bloat, and I don't think we should be farting all the time. So if
yeah.
you have something that makes you bloat, just cut it out. I think it's not for you. But
Mm.
what I have to add here is, like, you have to reset your whole internal system first, right? Like, you have to get it back to a healthy level, right? So I did a lot of cleansing, I did a lot of gut bacteria reset and all that kind of stuff beforehand, and then you can actually assess it yourself, right? If everything's broken inside, if you have a inflamed intestine, right, which most people have,
Mm.
then and you have a lot of toxins in your body, and heavy and soft metals and so on, then you will not be able to find out what works for you, like really works for you, because it only works with the condition that you're carrying with you, right? So you have to
Yeah.
get rid of all the crap first, and then have a clean system, and then you will be able to tell what works. So first, and foremost, it's probably cleansing and resetting, and helping your gut biome get back to a healthy level, and leaky gut and all these kind of things are like super, you know like prevalent and spread out throughout society, because we eat so much glyphosate and all that crap. So
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I'm actually researching this a bit, like the detoxing. So I did a lot of fasting, so also in my
mm,
20s, like a lot of fasting. Recently, I came a bit back of that, I saw some studies and research that's actually not too great, so, and I went a bit too far also with the fasts, like, for me, that it was just, again, willpower, and I felt
yeah.
so good, on it, and so clean. So I tried last year to not fast so much anymore, and indeed, like I'm now bloated. What you said, like all this stuff. So I'm studying a bit into like the detoxing, and this is completely new area for me. Also, with the gut microbiome.
mm,
But I'm really intrigued by that area of like of health right now. Of like, okay, like what is the like how does this work? How can we assess it really? Because like a lot of things like you said as well, and what I do as well is a lot of intuition, right? I
yeah.
kind of want to I want to think of a way that we can is you do it with intuition, but we can also make it kind of like with data, some biomarkers that we can measure,
Quantifiable. Yeah.
quantifiable. Yeah. So I did some research actually last week on like, okay, what kind of companies are there, right now in the world that already do this test, and there's so many, there's a lot of it
Yeah.
already. What I realized is that for most of them, I think the UX is pretty bad still, So you have to do, like I found a really good one, but you have to send them, urine samples, poop samples, all this stuff, and you have to send this to them in like boxes. And it's like it's just it's a lot of work, even for me. I think I'm in the target audience, right, for these kind of products.
Yes.
Even for me, I was like, whoa, this is so hard. So I did a lot of research, and I was like, okay, I think perhaps if we can solve that UX issue, if we can make that easier, that is where like a lot of opportunity lies, because then you can really allow to give quantifiable information to just on scale, and that can really benefit people. So I'm playing around with that idea a bit, That's more
Mm.
for my other company, Human Pro. So we didn't even go into that this
Yeah,
much, but
we'll go into it.
cool,
Let's go
cool,
into it
cool,
later.
cool.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. So it's like the Microdose Pro is more focused on the mental health side, and Human Pro is more on the physical health side. And I'm really geared towards, okay, how can we explore that area more, with the detoxing and with just giving
Sure.
the insights to people, because I want to have it myself, and I think you resonate with that too. But like you just want to build something for yourself, right? And that is
Yeah, of course.
if you
Yeah,
can
it's
do
the
that,
best up. It's the best way. What I can add to that is just from my experience is like get a really good professional offline first, right?
yeah.
Like you touch upon the topic emotional storage and emotional stress on the body, right? Like that, all that kind of stuff, it can be seen in the data, right? Like from samples and whatever, but if you have a person in front of you that actually tries to understand you, right? Like you talk to them and they see your
Mhm.
body and then they do the tests and then they do, then they have all the data and all that together is going to be important to make a good assessment of what's actually going on, right? Because it like just doing one side of it is not sufficient, right? Because like you might actually not change the or actually go for the root cause. You might just do it on the you know on a high level that's not really actually helping you, right? So I
Yeah.
think a good professional offline is the way to go here, especially if you haven't done it before. Getting a healthy assessment and
And
on
what
all
kind of
levels.
do you mean, like detox professional?
Hmm?
Like a detox professional?
Well, I mean, yeah. So the one that helped me the most was a actual medical doctor, right? That has like all these other ends added on to his approach, right? So he just looks at you from a complete level, and then I mean I'm taking infusions on a regular basis, and
Oh, really?
all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Nice. You're really ahead of the curve. Like,
yeah. I don't know, maybe. Yeah,
yeah, no, it's,
I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and I've tested everything that there is, and infusions, especially like vitamin C and zinc and stuff, is it doesn't hurt once a month,
okay.
but
I did
especially
my
in the
first one
beginning, it's
here.
hard work. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I did
for it.
my first one here. So like I love it because I also think like I'm testing a lot and just trying stuff out, But like
Mm,
the Netherlands, like maybe I'm in the wrong circles, but like I don't know a lot of people that do the infusions, with vitamins and stuff. They must be there. But I was here. I'm here in Cape Town right now. I just walked past a store that does that, and I saw people sitting with the infusion. I was like, okay, let's try it out. And I was really like, whoa, like the
yeah,
thing
yeah,
was hanging there, and I was gone within like like no time.
yeah,
And I felt great afterwards. Like, whoa, this is a thing that I didn't know was already kind of mainstream. If you have it, the stores in in the mainstream. So that's
yeah. It's the medical system doesn't like it, to phrase it that way. So my both of my parents, they're from the medical industry, and the medical
really
field. Yeah, so I've been in touch with these things all my life, and but like also the alternative ways, so homeopathy, from an early age, and like all these different kinds of approaches, right? Just it was always like drugs versus alternative approach. Like we had these discussions at home, right? So because
mm,
there's always two ways, right? Like it always depends on how far down the injury or the the disease and are
diseases.
you, right? Like is it actually possible for you to, have a soft kind of approach?
Yeah.
Because like if you already have cancer, you're fucked, right? Like you have to take some major steps, right? Like if you have to change your complete lifestyle, and then most people would probably go for the hardcore versions, which not going to help, but there has to be some major changes. But what I want to say is, like, I think you also talked about placebo in one of your podcasts, right?
Mm.
I quite like that one. It's an
Yeah.
interesting one because, I mean, especially with homeopathy, I thought about that a lot when I was younger, because people say, yeah, when you want, it's like all this crap, it's just a globally, it tastes sweet, like what's supposed to be in there, because everybody prefers like a pill, and then it's a hard pill and you can feel it. And but like, maybe that's a segue to your microdosing. Did you What did you learn from? I think you were talking about a study at Imperial College at the time, and then
Yeah.
placebo was strong. Like, did you learn anything in
Yeah,
hindsight?
yeah, sure. So like we got a lot when we started out with Microdose Pro. We got we started out, just for context. Like it was not a joke, but it was kind of like, okay, let's see what happens. Like we were three entrepreneurs, me and my co-founders, and we just started it like, okay, we like psychedelics ourselves, more the high dose experience, right? But we see in the US, it's really weird, but in the US, psychedelic therapy is now becoming mainstream, a thing, right?
Yeah.
So the war on drugs goes to full on psychedelics. A bit weird, but we were like, okay, let's just do it. Let's just try out like if we can get it off the ground in the Netherlands. In Europe, and within a day we got so much feedback. It was like, okay, people are ready for this. There's already a lot of awareness for this kind of stuff, and then we used to get a lot of feedback, on the placebo effect. Like, okay, but it's not real. It's like you take such a low dose that you cannot feel it. And I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning, I was a bit in that camp. I was like, okay, I used microdosing for productivity. I felt a bit more focused, like I
Mm,
really could get into the zone more with while working, just like removing all distractions, taking a little microdose, and just writing, or like, just doing some creative work really worked for me. But then we started getting letters when we just started from people, and reviews and feedback that send us like handwritten letters, like, you changed my life and I want to thank you. Thank you for existing. And I was a bit like, whoa, like that was not the kind of feedback that I was expecting. I
mm,
expected feedback like, okay, I can work longer hours, or I'm so productive, I can get into the zone better. But the majority of feedback was really like, I feel so much better now. Like my whole mood has changed for the better. I can get up out of bed in the morning again. We even got like on the street, people said like, "Hey, you're from Microdose Pro, right? Yeah, like my marriage was saved because of you. This actually happened." And we're like, "Whoa, this is such a fascinating like development that we didn't foresee with our own company." That I changed my perception a bit, because it happened so many times that I thought this almost cannot be a placebo, right? If several, like a lot of people come to you with similar stories all about mood, while our brand was all about focus productivity, you know, that doesn't make sense. Then there must be happening something there, and that's when I did a lot of research also into the studies, and I think that my current stance on it is that the especially those studies with the that you mentioned, they don't really have the right tools to measure anything like microdosing. Because with microdosing, it's not that you go to a lab, you take it, and it's like, okay, what do you feel? No, it's like you take it for a prolonged period of time, for like 6 to 8 weeks. You do it every day, a very tiny bit, and gradually you feel improvement. And to clinically test that, in a lab, or like you have to do just surveys every day, or like you have to measure that, it's just very hard. And I believe now there are some studies that also, like there's this very big meta-analysis from I think 2 years ago, that concluded, based on all the evidence, that it's probably not a placebo. So it's moving more into the direction of being accepted, also within the scientific field, I think, because in the beginning there were some high-profile psychedelic scientists, or one that texted us like, yeah, no, this cannot be true because it's placebo. And that guy also now kind of changed his mind. It's like, okay, no, it's probably there's something there. So it's playing with that. But my stance is, I think, a bit more radical on that, because from the beginning I said, like, why are you an entrepreneur? To solve problems, right? You want to solve
Yeah.
problems from people, and we were doing that. Like, so I said, it's a bit extreme, but I was like, I don't even care so much if it's placebo or not, but we are actually solving these problems of people. Like, hundreds of people are sending us messages like that it helped them and it changed their lives for the better. Not just like, okay, I feel a bit better. No, but it actually changed their lives. So yeah, that was so fulfilling just to get that kind of response, that I didn't really mind the whole scientific debate on placebo that much. Like, I personally believe it is not a placebo because I've done it many times, and yeah, that's my stance on it, my direct experience. But I think time will tell. I think we will see some studies soon that will show, okay, it's actually a bit more than placebo. There's something happening there
Yeah.
which can actually be beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, like from my experience, I wanted to touch upon that because I think it's an interesting one, in science and all these, these studies, they lack one thing in my opinion, and that's like what happens all around like your science project or your test at that time, because for me, when I microdose, like everything else that happens in my life during that period and the days and weeks before is going to influence the experience, right? So how high is my stress level? How is my stress? How is my sleep? Have I exercised regularly? Have I eaten the right foods and all that kind of stuff? It goes like, in all the different directions, and it all has an effect on the experience. So how are you gonna assess that in a test, where they don't ask the right questions, obviously, right? Because they forget about all that. And then how are you gonna ask someone, are you eating the right foods, because they don't know they're not eating the right foods, right? So it's like, yeah,
It's so hard. So there are some
exactly.
like I 100% agree with this. I fully align with that because it's way more of a holistic practice. You need to measure almost
Exactly.
anything, everything. But like, we thought about it last year, especially like deeply. How can we create some more quantifiable biomarkers, right? Because that's what Western science likes. That's what it wants to see. It wants to see, like, okay, this works because of this and this. And we did a lot of conversations, a lot of talking also with other companies. And a few things that I heard that were really interesting. First, probably HRV, so heart rate variability, could be a thing. That's a very hard metric that you can measure even with R rings, that kind of thing. So yourself. And one I found very creative, that was to measure how far someone on a daily basis walks from their house. I was like, whoa, why would that be, a biomarker for mental health? But they said, like, no, it has been shown that if you feel better, you go out more and you walk more around, that kind of things. So I was like, ooh, that's also very interesting and also not hard to do with the current technology. So I think there are some ways. It's not super clinical. I don't think we will see any clinical studies on these metrics, but there are some cool avenues to explore when it comes to tracking it. Again, I think that's very, very fascinating. Very, yeah, just it's a curious endeavor to explore that. But for me, it's not the main area of like where I really now focus on, because
Yeah,
yeah, I rather want to help people and scale the company, right? And the scientific department I really love.
sure.
I like it, but like, I'm already kind of like, because I was so skeptical of myself, I'm already kind of convinced that helps. So yeah, it's an interesting path to explore.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we talked about emotional release a bit before, but because I did a lot of that also with, you know, uh, yeah, like professionals online, right? So
Mm.
through the lens, I did emotional release on me, right? Or they
Really?
did it. Yeah. And I mean, we're at that level where that is possible, but how you gonna measure that? It's very subjective. Like, I can tell afterwards, okay, I worked through like some sort of a trauma better. I'm like, I when I think about my thoughts, I can feel that and sense that it's different. But how are you going to put that on paper, right? Like, that's a difficulty about that, and that's the limits of some science, right? Like, because you're not going to be able to have a quantifiable kind of median, right? Because everyone thinks differently, everyone feels differently, everyone's perception of themselves is differently, right? So it's a tough one for sure.
Yeah, to measure that, it's hard, especially like the emotional release online. I think, like, I have no experience with that. Like, I'm curious
Yeah.
to hear your experience on that. but I remember there was one company in the US that did ketamine therapy offline. So
Hmm.
the doctor would, the therapist would sit like in front of the camera through Zoom, and then at home the
Yeah.
patient would take ketamine, and then the doctor therapist would guide them towards that. I was so skeptical about that. I was like, whoa, I'm not so sure if that is really safe, but it happened in the US, right? So I was like, okay, interesting stuff. Um, but yeah, that's more on the level of, okay, is it safe? I am I have a bias towards like in-person therapy, let's say, and I think I think you just said with the offline finding a medical specialist as well, but the offline releasing, I could try it. I'm not sure how that would affect me. How has that been for you?
Well, I can definitely, I've tried a lot. I've tried many different things, and this one was one of them. I did it a few times, and I think it works. Even just you know like being conscious about what's going on, and where you feel the emotion while you talk about it, right? And then these people, if they're really good, they can actually lift the energy. They can do that like telepathically, basically, right? Like it's possible.
Mm.
But I think it also really depends on what part of the journey you are as a person, right? If you, like I said before, if there's so many layers that are on top of that, that nobody will get through to you, right? Like it's very hard to I think to penetrate anything if there's a lot of crap up front, right?
Yeah, no, 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But I think trying out stuff is what I love to do. I've tried a lot of things, and I will keep trying a lot of things, and sometimes it hurts, sometimes it doesn't, and in the end, you just find stuff that works for you, and maybe the stuff that didn't work for me works for somebody else, and that's completely fine, right? But like, I just love to test shit. I love to be the guinea pig. Especially maybe in my early days, maybe too much, right? And
Dude,
led me
100%.
down a few wrong paths, but I still loved it. Yeah, yeah,
I'm the exact same. Like my friends always, they mock me for this. That I do all this crazy stuff while there is not even something wrong with me. Gino, my co-founder, always says like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Don't try to fix it. And I'm like, no, that's not really my mentality. Like I'm like, try new shit and see how it works. And yeah, sometimes you burn yourself, like you as well. And that's like then you learn. Okay, this stuff is not beneficial for me. And of course, you have to watch out a bit, that you don't go too far. I did some really prolonged fasting at one point, and in hindsight, I'm like, that might not have been the most healthiest stuff for me. But yeah, you have to try it and see how it works. I love that.
sure.
That's
Yeah, I mean,
basically. I'll go for it.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I mean, I've been doing intermittent fasting for a long time, and since like 2 weeks, for some reason, I feel like I don't like it anymore, because I kind of I'm training more,
Mhm.
and I feel like I need like food early on in the day now, right? Like for a year and a half, I wouldn't eat anything for breakfast. So my first intake would be lunch, and it worked fine. Also for the clarity of the mind, it was great. But now I think I'm going to switch. So it's all about that, like just see what works, feel what works, and then just adapt. And what you said before, don't try to fix a running system, right? Like that's where you think it's actually running well, but like just imagine, you wouldn't have touched upon these fascia releases, you wouldn't even know that you had these issues,
Yeah, 100%.
because it's a level deeper than your perception and your consciousness, right? Like you don't know about it, and that's why I think we should always try to improve and see what's new, because there's always stuff to work on, and even though we don't see it, we're gonna see it, right? Like you just have to change a little bit about yourself and about your perception, and then something new will come up.
Yeah, again, 100% agreed. It's kind
Yeah,
of like a stress test as well in the system. Okay, like what's going on beneath the surface, and can I explore that? But also like I did 5 years intermittent fasting exactly like you did. Like the first meal at 1 o'clock, and
yeah,
then just fast 16, 18 hours a day after 8 o'clock, and that worked for me for a while. And 2 years ago, I decided to stop that, also because the exact same reason. I thought, okay, I need more food in the morning, because for workouts, I like to train in the morning.
Yeah.
But now I'm actually have to reflect, like, okay, the intermittent fasting was actually working for me better. But what didn't work for me, I think you also mentioned at the beginning, like optimizing your sleep is one of the most important things you can do, is to eat late in the day. That doesn't work for my sleep. And I really tracked that, and
Mm.
I could see, like, okay, if the later I eat, the worse my sleep gets. So I now exploring, okay, have a big breakfast and lunch after workout, and then stop eating, like, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and just basically, do the fast a little bit the other way around. And
Yeah.
so far it's been really working for me, because my sleep is way better because I don't eat before sleep, and I have the energy, the food in the morning, and my workouts, that I need for the workouts now. I think in my
Mm.
20s it was easier, but now, we're all getting a bit older, and I have to face the fact that I'm not immortal, unfortunately, or fortunately,
Not
and I have
yet.
to adapt a bit. Not yet. Yeah. Oh, that's the whole other rabbit hole we can go into. I'm not sure you want to do that.
Yeah. Maybe we put that in a second one, so not both of them get shut down.
The Brian Johnson
Yeah,
mentality.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Go for it. I think you wanted to.
No, no. I said, like, no. It was a joke. The Brian Johnson. You know him, like the famous dude, the biohacker guy.
Yeah, yeah,
What's his slogan? Do not die. Don't die. And it's all about, some weird
yeah.
stuff going on.
I don't even know if this guy's human. Like it doesn't look to me like that. But
No, no. Oh man, if we talk about like inner work and shadow work, like one part of me likes that dude. It's like, okay, I like his testing, and like he's, getting the human form or body to a new level. Let's see, he's optimizing everything. Okay, that's a part of me. Okay, interesting. But another part of me is just it's triggered. There's some stuff within me that's like, okay, this guy has it's touching on something.
yeah,
It's a bit
yeah.
odd.
It's
Let's say.
yeah. It's like Musashi with this stoic approach, right? Like it's just that. Nothing else can live next to this, right? Like I have 100 supplements a day. Every day, have my last meal at 2. I finish, everything at 4 p.m. And the temperature in my room is always the same. No sunlight gets in there, right? Like it's all so highly optimized. I mean, I'm not judging, I don't, because like if it's his thing, let him do it, right? But like because he's going like so hard publicly with that stuff, right? Like he's
Yeah.
like, young men or boys will see that and they will try to copy this shit, right? I'm not
Yeah,
saying it's bad, but like it's too hardcore, right? It's too much.
I
Yeah.
agree, man. Like I 100% again agree with that, because like I have people in my direct friend groups that, that are now doing the Johnson protocol and that kind of stuff,
Mm,
and I'm like, yo, man, like he takes 100 pills a day. He has like extremely tight with stuff. Like, just intuitively that doesn't really feel right, and then we can, just dive a bit deeper, but like exactly like you said, it's so hardcore, and it's all about optimizing and hacking. It's like this. That's my thing with the whole biohacking movement. Is like it looks at the human body as a machine, as a computer. In the language, in the lexicon, it's like hacking, it's like
yeah,
optimizing, it's like, it's systems. Of course we use it often as well, but like in their perception, it's the human body, or like the whole being, is like this computer that needs to be improved upon, like, until like it's
exactly,
immortal, you
exactly.
know so
And that's the wrong thing about it. It's to me it looks a lot like a preparation, for the next step. And it's like, hey man, like you're already at your peak human level. Why don't you add something in, so you can ascend to a next level, right? Like it smells a bit like that, and that's I think that loses like the human aspect of stuff, right? Like we lose the fun of life if every day is this basically the same structure, basically the same thought process. Everything is the same. Like you have you know no problems come up, right? That like problem solving is not really like that interesting anymore, because you don't do any major mistakes, like all that kind of stuff. Like it just gets boring, doesn't it? I think that's the fun
very,
about life, to make mistakes.
very sterile.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like you said, it gets boring. It's like everything is,
yeah,
but that's the that's even what Johnson himself says. It's like, how can I outsource my health? That's the exact language he uses. How can I
yeah,
outsource the health of every organ in my body to a, let's say AI, or let's say algorithm? And again, like I this is something I have to work with on myself. A part of me is like a little bit, that's a it's a cool concept, right? It's a cool idea. It's like technologically, I'm curious. It's a curious endeavor. But another part is like, yo, dude, like you don't need to outsource every organ in your body to an algorithm to get it to the health state. You also have your own agency and like go through that process yourself. But yeah, this is a very like it's a topic I am not fully clear on yet where I stand. Again, like part of me is against the transhuman movement. Another part of me is likes the transhuman movement. So I'm writing a bit about it myself to explore. Okay, what do I really think of this, and where do I stand? But yeah, we cannot deny that, especially someone like Brian Johnson, he has, in my friend group, a huge influence. So a lot of people are already following this protocol, this mindset, it is this
Mm.
set of ideas of how you should look at being human, right? And now he even made these posts like, okay, I'm going to create a new kind of human. It gets a little bit cultish. It's a
Well, there
bit
you
like,
go.
yeah, yeah,
I don't follow him anymore, like since a while, and I didn't even know about these statements. But that that aligns with what I said before, right? Like that was just my gut feeling straight from the beginning. He was taking it that way, and yeah, I think it's wrong. Like I think there's a reason why we're human, and there's a reason why we are the way we are. And I think plants, and that's why I also love to talk to you, because I love to promote like anything that has to do with nature, with compounds that are made from nature. And
mm,
because I think, like, to me, plants are technology, right? Like, and they're compounds, right? Like all the native tribes, they understand that, and that's the great thing about it. And I think nature brings us closer to God, brings us closer to ourselves in that sense, and everything else takes away from that. What, for example, that guy is doing, I think that goes the wrong way. There's always good stuff you can take from that, but I think once we lose our human touch, I don't know what the point is on this plane, right? Like, what are we supposed to do here? Is it
yeah.
like, you know
Yeah, I partly agree with that. Like, so the thing about plants being a technology, I agree. But in that sense, I see a lot of stuff as technology. I tend to
yeah,
see many things as tools, and again, also with plants or with psychedelics. Like my stance on this is that I see psychedelics basically as tools, to get you internally to a certain state, but it's yourself. It's your interaction with the tool, with the
exactly.
plant medicine, to get you to a certain state. And that's my current stance on it. Like I know some people, especially in the psychedelic scene, they disagree with that. Perhaps I will change my opinion on that, but I see a lot of things as tools. Um, I so from that angle, I don't necessarily have such a huge problem with the, let's say, the extreme biohacking movement. Where I do have an extreme, or where I do have a problem, is more like their attitude towards just perceiving the entire universe as something, that to bend to their will. That's a bit how I perceive it. It's like it's a non-acceptance of you of being human, and like that's the thing. Like what is the key for me when I realize, okay, like that this is where I totally disagree, is that they declare war on on being human, in a sense. It's like the worst disease of all is aging. I'm like, aging is in
That's a great
itself
thing.
just, it's a great thing. It's a natural
It's a
process.
great
It's
thing.
part of life.
Yeah.
We age. It's fine. I'm totally on board with, like, okay, let's live longer and healthier, and increase health span, all this stuff. I'm totally on board with that. But to fundamentally, like a priori, already see like aging itself as something that is a defect in the universe, that is, for me, that's wrong.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, diverge from the more mainstream biohack movement, I think.
Yeah, well, I was at a conference last year, and there was a guy. I think he was from the States, like
Mm.
many companies in the US, and he was talking about biohacking, right? Like big, big guy in this space, like whatever that means, right?
Mhm.
And I was listening to him, and you got the feeling, just basically what I said before, right? Like, he he doesn't like the way stuff works at the moment. He wants to optimize it to like a different level. And then he starts talking about, okay, yeah, you know what we did in one of our labs? Yeah, we pulled the blood from these little, these little humans, and then we injected it on the other side, and the old human, felt so much better, and we could quantify it. And he was just talking about it like in such a normal way. I'm like, okay, well, there you go. Is that the way to do it? And then I think we reach a level where it has nothing to do with the human experience anymore, and it's quite fucked up, right? So where's the fine line there? you know
Yeah,
yeah,
it's more of an ethical question. It's more like,
yeah,
because we can, should we also do that?
yeah,
And yeah, like I have the exact same stance in it. Like, again, like I'm not against like trying to improve human lifespan or health. I think that's amazing. I think it's a great endeavor. I love technology. I love all that
yeah,
stuff. But there are limits, of course, or boundaries for that goal. Um, and I've been to also a few conferences that I was listening to some speeches or talks, and I was like, okay, this really goes a bit out of my comfort zone, at least, to what is allowed in order to have the end goal, it seems, of immortal life. That's basically it. So yeah, it's a thing I'm working on myself. I'm not sure where I will end up, but I do for sure know that like I think we resonate, or we align on the fact that there are some boundaries to what is acceptable. I think that you are more like in the being human camp. Like I'm a bit exploring. Okay, what does it mean to be human? How are there levels indeed, like you said, beyond human? Can we access those levels? I really like that mode of thinking as well. Um, but yeah, not at all costs. So it's again something I need to explore a bit further, I believe.
yeah. Yeah, I think there's different approaches, right? Like I think there's it, I'm meditating since a while, but like I'm a bloody beginner, I would say. If I look at others, of course, that have been doing this for many years, and just down that route, there's like you can go so deep on that, and then you can optimize on that level, and you will see how that translates into your real life experience. And also psychedelics or any of these substances, right? Like it's all within you. You don't have to reach for external tech, or right, like actual the so-called tech. But if you go into the plant areas, and in that space, there's so much stuff that we can try out ourselves. And just like you said before, I think once you jeopardize somebody else's life, and they've been testing on animals, of course, and but now there's also humans involved, where I'm like, okay, this is exactly, it's an ethical thing, but it's a big no for me, right? But
Yeah, agreed. I think
yeah,
I look at it a bit through the lens of self versus selflessness. So there, like, the selflessness, you try to contribute to humanity, to others. You in a sense give up your own self to serve others. And if you look at it from the angle of self, it gets, you want to extract everything for your own gain. And like, I'm not gonna say like I'm in the pole of selflessness. Like, I'm definitely like somewhere in between. But I feel that like a lot of people, especially in certain movements that we discussed, are moving a lot towards self only. It's like, okay, how can I become immortal? And at what at all costs? How can I extract as much like energy from the universe in the external world, like you said, to become externally immortal? Like the internally immoral, that's not even a topic of debate often, and that's exactly what you said with the meditation. Like, I'm also a beginner, but like just to explore those realms, there's so much more depth in the, for me at least, the internal dimensions than the external dimensions. That again, it's a fine line. I'm trying to find the 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 golden path in between, so not to go fully internal or external on the spectrum, but it's a fine line. I like to to be both in a space where I can explore those inner dimensions, but I also want to take care of my the external dimensions. Okay, how can I take care of the body, of my physical being, but not at the cost of everything. That I think is the current position that I hold.
yeah, I mean, it is mind, body, spirit. It's all together. It's one, right? And if your body is not fit, then you will not be able to do the internal work on that level that we just talked about, right? Like it's impossible, right? Like if you're fat and you're eating like fast food every day, and you're poisoning yourself with shitty food and processed food, then you will not. Then you can meditate as much as you want. You will never, you know, like reach a different level. It's impossible. So that's the
True.
thing, you know. Yeah, but
Yeah, it works for me.
yeah, like you probably familiar with Paul Stamets and what he talks about, right? Like, let's get back
Yeah.
to the microdose part a bit, because like when I was microdosing, I was always combining it with lion's mane and niacin.
Yeah,
What do you
it's
think
a
about
Stamets.
that combination?
I like it. So
Yeah,
for context, Paul Stamets is this famous mycologist. He has this theory. It's not proven, but he has a theory that if you take psilocybin in combination with lion's mane mushroom and niacin, that it will induce neurogenesis. So basically, the creation of new brain cells, and it's good for brain health. Um, it's mainly the active components in the truffles or mushrooms, so the psilocybin that is converted to psilocin in the body, and then in lion's mane the active components, and the niacin is added to the stack there to to you get this rush, the flush is it's called. It
yeah,
opens basically the vascularity in the body so that the elements in the mushrooms and the lion's mane can get to your to the nerve endings. That is the theory. Like it hasn't been proven again. Like, but this is a theory that he proposed many times, and it's a stack that we also sell, and we get a lot of good feedback on it. I like it, but I don't do it too often, because with regular microdosing, this is good to make a discrimination here. Is like regular microdosing, you do most often 1 day on, 2 days off, so you take a few breaks in between, and that's mainly because it's like really like a mental exercise, right? It's like
yeah,
you feel how you feel on the microdosing day and on the other days, so it's you kind of get like this integrational aspect. With the Stamets stack, it's more, I would propose more physical, because it's really like linked to, okay, we want to induce neurogenesis within the body, so that's like a physical process, and you want to do it 4 or 5 days in a row. So there's not really that like that reflection time in between. So it's really like, okay, like more like a supplement, right? And for me, I do it only once a year. I like it, but it's a bit intense, everyday microdosing. I like to have that pause days, that off days in between, so I can reflect. But the Stamets stack it's more used by I think a lot of older people. We see it with our clients. Also, some research was recently done, like 2 years ago. It was published in Nature, even, that with older people that use the Stamets stack, that they could see already that they were doing this test with their phone. They could tap faster, on certain puzzles.
mm,
So they concluded, like, okay, if you do the Stamets stack for old people, it can actually show that it induced neurogenesis, because the reflections or the reflexes are faster, that kind of stuff. So it's really like this area of exploration still. But it's cool. It's more of a, not so much a mental health way at looking at microdosing, but more like really like the medical way, I would say, the physical way.
yeah,
Because we actually
yeah,
want to change something in the body, and yeah, basically
yeah.
it.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, back in the day, many years ago, I spent some time in the US, and I was already confronted with, microdosing back then. So it wasn't like, new to me at all. Like once it kind of flushed over to Europe, and so also Stamets, I've been following this guy for a while, but it's interesting stuff, and I mean, that's very difficult to, probably measure, just like we said before, right? Because then you need the big budgets to actually have a, conclusive kind of test that actually works. The part of the shroom that you guys use is the lower part, right? Like it's
Yeah,
the truffle, right?
truffle. Yeah.
Like, would you say there's a difference in, the upper or the lower part of the plant?
Yeah, for sure. So like it's the same organism. The mushroom is how people know it. The magic
Yeah,
mushroom. Unfortunately, in the Netherlands, that got banned a while back. And what did not get banned was the truffle. Now, this always needs a little bit of explanation, because people often think it doesn't make any sense. But so you have the mushroom above ground, which is banned, but the truffle below ground, same organism, is not banned. And in the truffle is the same substances, right? So that's why we have to, and everyone else, that's why all the microdosing companies are selling the truffles. purely because it is legal to sell it in a fresh state. So we cannot like process it in any way. So we cannot make chocolates of it. Some people do that, but that's not allowed. So if you want to play the game by the book, by the Dutch law, then you have to sell the fresh truffles. And it's interesting because there's actually a benefit for truffles when you compare them with the mushrooms, because in the mushrooms the psilocybin content that can vary between parts of the mushroom. So if you take one part, it might be stronger than another part. And with truffles, that's less. So the dose variability is actually more consistent. And that's why also truffles are more suited for microdosing than the mushroom. So it's kind of like this weird interplay. Like the government decided to like make mushrooms illegal, but truffles legal. Don't ask me why. That's just how it is. And the truffles are actually better suited for microdosing. So yeah, that's the current state of things. We do hope, of course, at one point that regulations, they will innovate, they will evolve, that we see other parts being legalized. Also, that it's being legalized that we can process the truffle. Because taking the fresh truffle, it's fine, but it's not great for UX. You have to store it in your fridge. You cannot make a pill or powder of it. It's all not allowed. So of course that would be way
Yeah,
more convenient also for clients if you could just send like like a supplement. You could store it somewhere.
sure.
There's no like deadline for like the fridge, that kind of stuff. That would be way easier. And we get a lot of questions
Yeah,
on that, but yeah, it's simply not how the law works.
yeah, yeah. Disclaimer: this is all for educational purposes only, of course.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, for me, the microdosing, like what I learned these in these past 12 months maybe, like I like to do it on the days where I have minimal screen time.
Mm.
Like for me, for some reason, it doesn't, like before it was different. It changed a bit in this like maybe since I meditate more. I don't know if that's probably the switch there. But like when I'm more in nature, when I don't look at the screen that much, like it works better for me. Like I see that the benefits are way more clear.
Yeah, for me the same. Unless I want to do writing or something at the computer, like
Yeah.
what for me works, and some people it works differently. But for me, it's just no interruptions. So for me, it's just really great. Like I'm not gonna microdose on a day that I have 10 meetings. Because
Mm,
that stresses me the fuck out. If I'm
yeah.
gonna be jumping from call to call, meeting to meeting, and I'm microdosing, that doesn't work. But if I have like zero meetings and I know, okay, today I'm gonna work on just one thing, I'm gonna create a new content strategy, or I'm gonna create a few emails, that kind of thing, then I love it. But in general, for me it also works to do it in nature. So I microdose now often just intuitively on the weekend when
Mm,
I have no work obligations. I can expect no meetings or calls. Like today would be a great day actually. Just go here, do a hike, small microdose, and that just that really gets me going. It's kind of this like this deepening of your awareness, right? And it's just great to do that in nature. I think even Albert Hoffman, the inventor of LSD, himself, he said that he always would recommend to do psychedelics in nature because that's just like the optimal setting for it. And yeah, I agree with
probably,
that.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree as well. I think it's spot on. The Yeah, I think while you were talking, I was like just thinking about what actually bothers me when I'm looking at the screen all day. But I think it's more the reactiveness to stuff, right? Like just like you said, when you have meetings and you're reacting to things, I don't think it works well with the microdose. I think when you want to be focused, when you want to go internal and actually like think and produce something, that's when you come in that flow state, which is interesting.
It differs,
Yeah.
huh? So just to hook onto that, like, so I'm not sure. Like, I'm a hyper introverted person, right? So for me, like if I do psychedelics or microdosing, I want to go internal, just not be disturbed. Maybe that's the case for you as well. But we do have a lot of people, like the majority of people are extroverted, that they actually thrive on microdosing in the work setting. They say like, I could do all my meetings just like that. I just flow through the day. That works for them. For
Mm,
me, it doesn't work, but for some people, it actually does work. So it's really important to remember always with microdosing that it's really also geared to your personality, like how you react to stuff. some people, when they have one beer, they get already like they go internal. Some get really outgoing, so you can a
Yeah.
little bit like compare to that in a way. Like, what are you prone to do? That's often also the case. If you microdose, that gets a little bit enhanced.
Yeah, 100%. This was just personal experience, for myself. I'm sure, like as anything, it all works all the different ways possible, right? I remember this because you just talked about one beer. Like, I had this Malaysian girl with me in university, and she would literally have like half a beer, and she would like get red and like completely be knocked out. We had to carry her out of the pub. So, and it's just the way it is. Like,
Yeah.
stuff works differently on each body.
Oh my god,
And
I don't want to
yeah.
be here, man.
No, that must have sucked. It still sucks probably for her. So the Human Pro series that you guys produce, I've been testing it. Great stuff. Especially the Lion's Mane, love it. The What's the difference between all that stuff out there that's just a powder that you can get? Because I tried a lot of stuff. Even before me and you we got in contact, because I've tried all the organic ones. I've tried, organic Chinese. I've tried organic European and extract and all that kind of stuff. So maybe if you want to, elaborate a bit what the differences are.
Yeah, so first of all, like Human Pro is the second brand, right? So we decided to make a second brand for like the non-psychedelic products, because Microdose Pro it's in the name, it's microdosing. It's like it's clear that it's about a certain product, and we got a lot of feedback that people were confused about. Okay, but like, should I also microdose lion's mane, that kind of stuff? And then we decided, okay, let's do it under a separate brand, because then we can segment that a bit clearer. So Human Pro, the idea is that we go for more like just physical health product supplements, that don't necessarily give you that like microdosing experience, but just supplements that can help you to live healthier. So we're also going to add more products there. We just closed our first investment round 2 months ago, and we're now working on our own farm, so we can also improve the products more. So
Amazing.
that
Congrats,
ties in.
by the way.
Yeah, great. That ties. Thank you. That ties into like your question, because right now we're working with a supplier, but we have some optimizations ourselves that we want to do. So the products still are very good, but we have some like other things that we'd like to add, and that's why we need our own farm. We want to do it locally in the Netherlands, and that's what we're building right now. And we also want to build different types of products, right? So currently we are working on a spray, lion's mane spray, because we are, like, not me, but my team, there are some people that are constantly checking with people, clients, how was it, just feedback. That's really the startup mentality they have. Like, it's not so much me, but I'm getting used to it. But it's getting as much feedback from clients as possible.
That's
And
best.
it's so good, right? I have
Yeah.
to say it's really nice. And what we learned is that a lot of people, they don't like to take 3 pills a day, something like that. Those kind of things. It's like, yeah, I don't like pills. I don't want to do even more pills. So how can you guys solve that? And we thought about it, and we think we can make a spray of it. Just a spray you can take, and then you have your lion's mane on the go. And we got feedback from that, and people loved it. So
Mm,
those kind of things we're now really working on, and that's also currently my main focus is more product, because I had my own marketing agency before. I'm more like focused on the marketing aspect of things, like running ads and these things.
yeah.
But right now we're in a phase that, like, we were the first at one point, so it was easy to market. If you're the only one, it's easy. It's a blue ocean. But at one point, people start copying you, and I had
Of course.
many copycats. Just shamelessly copycats, and we were like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
man! Okay, we need to innovate so the market keeps you sharp." So now we're working more on the actual product side. Like, how can we improve the product better, make it even better, have new UX or whatever, so that
Mm,
we stay the best and we can innovate, and people they love us more. So yeah, that's what we're working on right now, and we are really trying to get our own farm off the ground right now. I would love to. I have so many ideas about this. Cannot share too much on that, but like, man, it would be great to to really have more direct influence on the products, the product side of things.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I have also have a small project here in Croatia that I'm working on, and I'm pretty deep into vertical farming and that whole space. So like so much is possible in such a small space, right? Like like the times changed drastically these last 10 years, and we can basically do anything we want in any environment, right? It doesn't matter if it's the Netherlands or right, like you don't have to move close to the equator to get shit done anymore. So it's
Yeah,
it's all possible.
yeah, it's amazing. Like I saw what was possible indeed. Like I am not a farmer by any any metric. So for me, this is new. A new domain. I just research and I know, okay, I want this supplement and I want this and I want this, and then I said to the farmer guys, like, okay, how can you create it? And then they was like, no, this is not possible and that's not possible. And I'm like, I don't care. Like I want to, I want to have this in one product. So we're really in that phase right now. But I'm surprised by like how much they can do, and like just on small space, what they can grow. So it's crazy. And I think the Netherlands is actually the number one country when it comes to farming or something. So we are really far ahead of like a lot of countries in terms of like what we can produce on small
Yeah,
areas.
definitely. Yeah, it's moving a lot towards indoor farming, especially in the Netherlands, right? Like the the intersection, with vertical farming, it's interesting because it links to what we said before. It's like there's the tech and the non-tech part very very much combined, right? Like you have this old school farming aspect, and then you have all the robots if you want, and all the quantifiable data, right? Everything is automated. It's super interesting. But I think could be something that you could dive deep to in, as well if you have the time. But it's interesting stuff. So because I want to understand a bit better the extract
Mhm.
and the normal powder. What's the difference there?
What do you mean with the extract and the powder?
Yeah, because because there's extracts, let's say lion's mane extract, and then just
Yeah,
like ground up lion's mane, right? That's accessible at the moment.
yeah, yeah. So it depends also because what farm you where you get it. Like we did a lot of research. The current farm we're working with, like it's from Estonia, so
Hmm.
we did a lot of research there, and we like the product. It depends. Like some we used to work before with another farm. They would have like two different extracts. They would have like the from the mycelium and from the fruiting body. And we did a lot of research, and now we decided to go for only the fruiting body. So there are different like opinions on this. What is better? What do you prefer? Our way was okay. We want to have the best product, like on tests. So we do a lot of like lab tests, and we want just the best feedback from clients. Because we're a startup. We need to sell a product that actually like makes people want to
Yeah,
buy it and feel good. You know. So currently, it's only the fruiting bodies that we use, and we just do a lot of lab tests, and we test on that. But again, like I'm 99% happy, but I want some to add some stuff. So like my dream here is like to create a product that contains like not only lion's mane, but also other supplements in it directly. So you can add other ingredients into the same pill, let's say, or the same powder, or a spray even. I think that is the way to go, because I've noticed, especially with lion's mane, that you said it, you showed it. Lion's mane is the number one product that sells, also on Human Pro. Why? Because people, we did a lot of research to this product again. Like they really feel it after a few days of using it. They feel clarity, right? They feel more like not just focus, but really clearer. Like brain fog is the main issue of our clients, and this really helps them.
mm,
With cordyceps, chaga, reishi, it's people also feel it, but not as direct. And that's what we noticed, that okay, so the feedback from lion's mane is the best. We also see that most people are gearing toward lion's mane, even in my direct environment. For instance, my parents, they are taking it because they're getting older, and lion's mane is supposed to help with like with brain health. That we see that there is a unique opportunity, and also something that I really want to solve. Like I want to create that product that my parents take, on a daily basis, and that keeps them sharp, that keeps their brains healthy. In order to do that, I want to add a few other things. So yeah, that's just the current process. It's product development. That's where we are right now.
nice. Yeah, now you have the freedom to do it, right? Like with the investor in the back, more
Yeah,
space
that's
to go
also another
into
thing,
it.
man. A new phase in my life. I never work with investors, but that's a different ballgame.
Yeah. What changed for you when you closed that round?
Uh, Not much per se. Like, of course, now you have the funds, you have resources to do more stuff. You know, we
Yeah.
have OKRs, so I have certain objectives and key results I want to achieve across a time frame,
Mm.
and some of them, you know, you just simple. You need budget. You know, so once you close an investor round, all of a sudden doors open that were closed before. You know, you can do new things. For example, like a farm. You know, those kind of
Yeah.
things. And what changed predominantly is that I think I come from I never worked for a boss, let's say. So I
Mm.
always had my own company. I was like to be very independent. Now, of course, like, you know, we still have majority share, and we still like they're not the boss, let's say. But you do have to report. You know, you do have to take them into consideration. Just like, okay, there's people that have trust in us, and I love them, and they share that trust also, you know, by giving us the funds and the means to achieve goals. But you know, you have to. It's a little bit not pressure, but it's like, okay, I have to perform for them. You know, it's like it's not just me anymore doing my own thing and, you know, failing perhaps, but it's also okay. Let's take them into consideration. Let's spar with them. Let's see who they have in their network. All those kind of things. So it's a little bit different. You know, it's a little bit like, okay, it's a bit more serious, I would say. And yeah, for me that's a new experience, and so far I like it. It keeps you sharp. You know, it's like it keeps you very on your toes, and also you don't you want to really do this, you know.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because like you said, you were an introvert, or you are one, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you had like issues with connecting with people, and is that kind of what was that also a problem, like with building teams for you and stuff like that, or
Yeah, so like, yeah, definitely, like how I worked, especially when I started my own company. Like, I just had a few clients and I just everything for them, you know. And networking never has been my strong suit. So it definitely was hard also to, like, I've had to learn that the hard way, man. Just having freelancers, having, you know, people work for you. You probably have the same with the podcast, you know, editors, all
yeah,
these things, you know, like you have to manage and stuff. It's like it's a new type of skill set, right? And
sure,
when I started with Microdose Pro, our team is now grew from like 3 people to like 10 people. Yeah, not gonna lie, it's hard at times, you know. But luckily enough, like I have two co-founders, and those are extroverts, and they are really, really good with people. So yeah, that helps me a lot. You know, that it like I think the power of a good partner, you know, a good co-founder, that I really see the value there, because it allows me to not have to focus too much on interpersonal communication, especially with only with the people that directly report to me, that directly work with me, right? But you know, they are so good at things like organizing this week we just had here. You know, just like this week team building, basically. Like I would have never come up with that even, but they said no, we need to do this kind of stuff, you know, and they organize all these things, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's really cool, it's really good that we do that, you know.
yeah,
I didn't even meet like half of my team in real life before. That was the first time, you know, because everything is
that's a
online
point,
these days.
right? Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely hard at times, but I'm getting better at it. I think I'm growing.
nice. Yeah, there's this book, I think you know it as well. What's it called, The Network State, right? Yeah,
Balaji,
yeah, The Network State. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
from Balaji. What's his name?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean that interlinks into that, right? Like because we could talk a bit about like alternative systems, and because
Mm.
you obviously, right, like with the retreats, like seeing your team for a while, all working remotely, and being on different ends of the world, like I think it's the way to go, right? Like that's a progress that I can work with, like have that connection through tech and still get shit done, right? But I think once we go too far and you have the goggles on all the time, right? That like that's gonna be a problem again, right? So the fine line is probably somewhere there. And how do you so I mean it's probably only benefits, right? Like if you fly out your team for 1 week and just spend time with them, right? Like there's no downside to that.
No. Yeah, the downside is that your support team is offline almost for a week, but that's a
Yeah,
small short term downside. No, it was great. Just to like on a like you said with the goggles and all this stuff. Like I think you miss some kind of like real communication with a person, right? So
yeah,
like with some people in the team, like they lived in Portugal. I almost never see them. Like I saw them once in my life. For a day or so. So through Zoom calls, you don't really get to know each other that well. And if you're just around each other just for a few days, and of course, maybe you're a psychedelic company, so there might be some things involved. You start to know people way better, and you start to appreciate each other way better. So that was just amazing. And the network state concept, like I love that concept, and I think that it really resonates with you as well. Of course, I read the book 2 years ago, and it kind of changed a lot of how I look at things. So I have this friend, Zoe Langdon, and I do a podcast with him, or like a YouTube channel we upload every few months. We upload something, not super active, but it's it's nice to just spar. And he explained
yeah.
this
We'll link
already a
it.
few years. Sorry.
We'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, sure. So he explained this idea already to me like a few years ago, and I didn't really get it. But then once when it dropped, when I understood it, it's basically you create digital communities, and you can create all the resources that's needed to sustain that community. And at one point, the idea is even to buy physical land somewhere, and to become your own sovereign state. It's very sci-fi, very far-fetched, of course.
That's
But
happening.
then it's happening, man. I went to the Network
Yeah,
State Conference in Amsterdam earlier this year or last year. It was great.
yeah,
It's actually happening. It's like people are doing
yeah.
this stuff. It's
Definitely.
my friend is doing it. Zoe. I was in Croatia. That's how I think we got to know each other on Instagram, because I was
Yeah,
around. But my friend Zoe, he's doing it. He's like actually already setting up the template. Because what he does, he just rents a villa somewhere, this in Croatia, and he just gathers good people around, that he thinks they have something to add, creators, or people that want to live off the grid, or people that are building something. He just invites them, and then he just spends 2 or 3 weeks with them, and then it's like the synergy that happens there is it's amazing. It's great, and it's like you just
mm,
come up with so many new stuff. And he's actually hosting a new one in Portugal, I think, in a few weeks. So yeah, I love it. It's
nice.
actually happening. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way to go. Yeah, and shout out to Soraya because she connected us.
Ah, nice. Oh yeah, of course, true. Shout
Yeah,
out.
yeah, exactly. Uh, yeah, I think there's plenty of these projects, worldwide. Like there's one in Honduras. It's called the ZD. That's
Mm,
very very progressed already. It's actually working pretty well, and it's live. And then plenty of others. Portugal's strong, but all of the world technically. Obviously in the European Union, it's difficult to build anything like that because the autonomous level that you want for a zone like that is it's not what they like. So
it's
um,
hard for now, but
yeah,
it's the next step. I think it's a natural progression, right? You had nation states, and I think a network state makes a lot of sense. It's just it's like Bitcoin, right? It's like it has to go through certain cycles of acceptance, and at one point, the first will happen, and then more will pop up, that kind of thing. Uh, I think this will happen. I'm pretty convinced about it.
yeah, yeah. Talk to Alex Svetsky also on this podcast. You can check it out. It's a nice talk. He's deep in that space. And but in general, yeah, like you said, it's a natural progression, right? Because like we're in this shift a little bit. Like either it's going to be Brian Johnson and all the way there, right? Or people are going to try to reconnect with nature and with each other, right? And that's so beautiful about this time, because everyone's like, yeah, these times are shitty. I'm like, yeah, they've never been much different, but right now, it's easier. It's easier to connect with like-minded people, especially through the internet, which is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I did good times ahead. I think we just need to speak our truth a bit more. People don't like to talk about their opinions that much, and a lot of people don't have any, unfortunately. But yeah, I think once you voice your opinion, it's easier to connect with other like-minded humans, and then cool stuff can be built.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think we should find the middle ground between the extreme Brian Johnson and like going completely solo into nature, living. There's
Exactly.
a middle way. There's
Yeah.
the technologically synchronized nature communities like that.
Exactly. You have a nice piece of land and a cool media, you know, outlet in the middle, right? That can produce
Yeah.
anything that you want. That's my goal, by the way. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I have to admit, man, like I resonate more and more to that. Like it's like the
yeah,
older I get now, the
yeah.
fast pace, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound too bad.
No, it's great. It's great. Well, that was a good little hour and a half, man. Where can people find you if they want to check out your stuff?
They can find me personally on Instagram. It's Niels Spaar. I probably link it. 'Cause it
Yeah,
gets
sure.
missed a lot or misspelled. They can find my website, my company is microdosepro.com and humanpro.com. And they can, where else they can find me? Oh yeah, the YouTube channel is Systematic Mastery that I have with Zoe. We upload just talks on, whenever we are in the mood to have some sci-fi
Yeah,
talks
amazing.
about network state, that kind of stuff. That we uploaded. I think that's the best ones to find me. Yeah,
Perfect. We'll wrap it here. Thank you for your
awesome, man.
time, man.
Thank you so much for inviting me, bro.